Welcome back, nerds, to Nerdspace Games, your resource for everything and anything related to survival horror games. From upcoming titles, rumors, and leaks to rankings, we got it all. And on today's episode, we have a major leak or rumor depending on how much you trust the source for Resident Evil 9. Plus, we'll briefly talk about when we'll probably see this game and when we'll see the release date for Silent Hill 2 Remake, which I know I have a great history with predicting that wrong. But before that, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to my channel if you love survival horror content. Also, leave a like on today's video if you enjoyed today's topic. But with that out of the way, let's jump straight into it. So I haven't done the best job about updating you guys on the recent rumors and leaks that have come from Dusk Golem surrounding Resident Evil 9, mainly because I honestly didn't believe most of them, and on top of that, it seemed like he was getting conflicting news. Well, that happened once again, as it appears Golem got even more news to conflict with something he just announced a few days ago. See, earlier in the week, we heard from Golem that there was a high probability that Resident Evil 9 was going to get delayed, and that a different RE game was going to move up and take its place. He wasn't sure how long this delay was going to be, and he didn't want to announce what Resident Evil game was going to move up ahead of RE9, but regardless, this was something that I just couldn't buy. With Resident Evil 9 being in development since Village, I just couldn't see this game getting pushed back so far to the point where a different title would be completed before it. And it seems that Golem's sources felt the same, because he updated us with more rumors around the release date of Resident Evil 9, which obviously conflicts with his earlier update on the game. As of today, Dusk Golem says that sources are now telling him that Resident Evil 9 is back on track and looks to get an announcement sometime very soon. On top of that, he even gives us a release window, as Resident Evil 9 is predicted to release in January of 2025. Now, if I was a betting man, I would bank on this rumor or leak, whatever you want to call it. I would bank on it being real. Whether I believe Golem has credible sources is a different story, but I've always believed that Resident Evil 9 was releasing in January of 2025, with us getting the first teaser trailer sometime in May or June. Why? Because Resident Evil has a history of success when releasing their games in the first 3 to 4 months of the year. Every Resident Evil remake, including the 2002 remake of the original game, released in the first 4 months of the year. In fact, RE2 Remake, Resident Evil 7, and even the original Resident Evil 4 all released in January of their respective years, and these games are some of the highest selling games of the franchise. So it's not really too surprising to see Capcom target the first quarter of 2025 for Resident Evil 9, especially January. But again, take this with a grain of salt, as I'm very hesitant to trust anything that Dusk Golem has been saying lately. The guy has always been 50-50, but honestly, over these past few months, it seems like he's been a little more all over the place. With Resident Evil 9 apparently getting delayed just a few days ago to now all of a sudden it's ahead of schedule and releasing at the start of 2025, it's a little hard to trust anything Golem says at this moment. Still, he's got a decent amount of stuff right, and his leak matches up with what I see Capcom doing. As for when we'll see this game announced, my money is on the rumored PlayStation event coming sometime this month. Insider Jeff Grubb, who I find to be a hell of a lot more reliable than Dusk Golem, told us earlier last month that PlayStation's next event would be sometime in May. With Xbox announcing their next showcase in June, it makes a lot of sense for PlayStation to showcase the future of the PlayStation 5 and VR2 as well. And Capcom has a history with announcing new Resident Evil games at PlayStation events. Just look at Resident Evil 2 Remake. So my money's on the first trailer for Resident Evil 9 to appear at the PlayStation event this month. Funny enough, Jeff Grubb also leaked that one of the big titles that is supposed to appear at the PlayStation event is none other than Silent Hill 2 Remake. Apparently, there's a good chance that Silent Hill 2 will finally get its release date at this event, but honestly, I'm not going to get my hopes up. I literally said the last 2 to 3 major gaming events that we would get the Silent Hill 2 release date, and I'm kind of tired of being proven wrong. Still, it would be a survival horror fan's paradise if both Resident Evil 9 and Silent Hill 2 Remake are shown off at this PlayStation event with a release date for each of them. Oh, and let's not forget that Sony still has to show off their Until Dawn remake as well. Apparently that's supposed to release this year too, and if that's the case, us horror fans are going to be eating real good at this PlayStation event in May. But that does it for this episode of Nerdspace Games. Hit up the comments and let me know what you think of these leaks. Do you think Resident Evil 9 will be shown off in May's PlayStation Showcase? Do you think we'll get a release date for both Resident Evil 9 and Silent Hill 2? Also, just to have a little fun, what are your final predictions for Resident Evil 9 before it's shown off for the first time? Let me know down below. Anyway, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to my channel for more content on survival horror games. Also, leave a like on today's video if you enjoyed today's topic. Oh, and tune in later today at 5 p.m. Eastern for my newest ranking on survival horror games. This time, I'm focusing on the top 10 best survival horror games still to come in 2024. But as always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys on the next episode of Nerd Space Games. Take care.